Hi guys, welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams shows. Today, we are going to be talking with Rajesh. Rajesh and I we met about maybe a couple of months ago, and we immediately had a great connection and started working on some crazy ideas. I started exchanging some crazy ideas, some of which we will get to hear today, I guess. So let me just quickly introduce Rajesh. Rajesh, he's a serial entrepreneur, Silicon Valley. A veteran. He runs several of his own startups, tech companies, and he sits on the board of numerous others. He's an entrepreneur, author, teacher, obviously based in Silicon Valley. His latest startup is called Oddvisor, which features several thousand original micro podcasts from world-class experts available at a push of a button. He has also co-founded several other technology startups, as I said. Some of them, two of them are called Mentor Cloud and Jiffle Now. Rajesh has written and published 16 books so far, 16. With his first book published at the age of 13. And over the last few years, he has shared over 2,400 napkin insights. So if you haven't checked it out, go to napkininsights.com, check it out. There's lots and lots of really meaningful insights you can derive from each and every post that Rajesh makes. Several of them have been featured in the first two volumes of Think Books. So Think Books is a series of very popular books which helps you think and organize your thoughts. Check those out as well. And Rajesh is an award-winning teacher at the Founder Institute, where he has helped over 1,000 first-time entrepreneurs to bring their ideas to life. Welcome, Rajesh. I'm sure the list of your accomplishments can go on, but in the interest of time, let's start our interview.
Very good to meet with you, Manoj. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. So, can you tell us? I know you have a very interesting story when you were starting your career, and you told me how you got started, and your parents wanted you to do something else. So can you share a little bit of that story quickly so that we can build a little bit of a foundational context here?
Absolutely, Manoj. Basically, I like reading, so just like many of us, right? So it's all fiction, right? So I started reading early, and then by the time I was about 9, I read about 700 books. But don't give me any credit for it, because if you ask my mom, she will say that it's all useless books, right? So basically, it was mysteries, thrillers, and anything that had fantasy, something that is that had to have fiction in it. There was never anything to do with self-help or anything. There was no interest in it. I used to read in English and Kannada, my other language where I grew up with. So when I used to play a game, Manoj, that at the end of this story, I know exactly what will happen, because I'd read so many. I think I should be able to figure it out, right? So most of the time I would be wrong. So, and that would irritate me like crazy, because I think this would have been a better ending. Why did they do it this way? And then obviously I'm nobody, right? I'm just one of the readers. So I have no say in saying it. But then when I was 10, I got an idea that if I write my own novel, then I can decide what I want them to do. Like, I don't have to depend on anybody. I can say, this is exactly what should happen. This is where the treasure should be found. This is where they should identify the killer, whatever it is. So I started writing without thinking much. And I wrote about 200 pages. It took me about 8 months. And the book was ready. And really, that was not the madness. The madness actually began when the book was complete. And then we didn't have a lot of money. So I used to borrow pocket money from my mom, and I would go to the nearby corner store where I could make the long distance calls, right? Call it STD there. So, and I would put the money, and then I still remember, I would pick up the phone, and somebody said, hello. And then I would say, I'm an author. I've written a book. They put the phone down, thinking some joker playing a prank on me, kind of thing. So I'm very persistent. So I would make the call again until they scream at me and say, never call me again, right? So I won't bore you with all the details, but basically, it was 3.5 years, 160 rejections later, I got my first book published.
Wow.
And it was a big dream of mine. And I still remember how I used to go through it with so many rejections. First of all, you are so young, you
Yeah.
are not very bothered by. There was no self-esteem and all those issues. You just, just like when you're a kid, you play a game and you lose, and you just tomorrow morning you're okay again, right? But when it was got to close to 100 rejections, I had to change the story inside of me, because otherwise you can't keep going. It's
Yeah.
like a serial failure, right?
Yeah.
So I used to say, I think people may get rejected like 300 times or something. I'm still one third of the way there, so I
Yeah.
should do it fast,
So
because I have to motivate.
you had a goal for a certain number of rejections, I guess.
Yes, yes, yes. I always say that I have an electronics degree and a PhD in how to get rejected, kind of thing. So, but once I got the first book published, there was no looking back. So basically, I got a job as a journalist in a local newspaper, and I learned all the art of storytelling, at least the foundation of it. I
Yeah.
got there. Before I was 17, I got five more books published. So six books were published.
Mhm.
And then my mom got worried that I will be a writer.
Mhm.
So basically, an Indian mom will think if the son is not an engineer or a doctor, then she is a failure, right?
Yeah.
So nothing to do with the son.
Especially in South India.
Yes, yes, yes. So I believe it's the same with the Chinese parents and Jewish parents. So we are not alone. So we
Yeah.
have company. We have company everywhere. So she gave me a choice. She said we have three choices. One is an engineer. Two is a doctor. Three is a loser. Which one do you want? So obviously, I love my mom, and I said I stopped writing and I became an engineer, and I did very very well there. But I closed my books immediately because I have no interest in
Yeah.
doing any of those things. I convinced two of my friends that we should start a company immediately.
Mhm.
So, and they were also convinced, because we all are good friends. But obviously, that you know what would have happened. It didn't go very well. So, but not only it didn't go very well, it was like, instead of a death by gunshot wound, it was like a death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
So while I was trying to give up, people would say, "You are so smart, man. You should not give up. So you should give it a shot. You should go fast. You should not give up." And I said, maybe they're right. But it was like one blind person leading two other blind people. It's like we had no idea what we were doing. So I learned a lot, but I think I was too immature to try and do something. But all in all, it worked out great, and it was the start of my career then.
That's great, and you have done tremendously well since then. Uh, Anybody like I've talked to so many people in Silicon Valley, even though I have been in the industry for a long time. I just ran into you, but now I found out you know practically everybody in the US, especially in the IT industry. But anyway, let's talk about the current environment. I know you have written a tremendously insightful book. So can you tell us a little bit about that book and what inspired you? And let's dive in, because I know we have a lot to talk about the current situation. So let's start with that book. How did you come up with that concept?
See, the book is called 6 Foot World, and the subtitle is How to Reimagine the Future in Disruptive Times. So, what is 6 Foot World? It was, in the COVID situation, either you will stay 6 feet apart or you go 6 feet under, kind of things. Like, which one do you want? And everybody will stay 6 feet apart. So, we are living in a 6 foot world, is where I started. So, the reason I was not interested in writing any of these things. So basically, I was busy, my other book called Unshaken. I
Yeah.
was just finishing up, and I was getting all the testimonials. I'm getting a forward from one of my heroes. I was just in the last leg of it. When I started noticing more and more things about COVID, you also know that I don't watch TV, I don't watch news. I have not done it since 1997. Why? Because I was a journalist. I know how news is manufactured. I know how much drama, how much sensation, what is the concoction there in the news. I know it very well. So I stay away from it. So because of that, I was a little bit delayed in getting the news. But news always finds you because of the social media, and somebody will send you something in WhatsApp, or when you have a conversation, they will talk about it. And what I observed was that how they were describing and defining COVID. And I am a linguistic philosophy student.
Mhm.
So I am very interested in anything that is a definition or a description or a distinction as they speak. So I found that, Manoj, that whatever they were saying about COVID and what was happening was out of sync. So
Mhm.
basically, what has happened is an unprecedented event.
Mhm.
Never happened ever in our history. It may never happen again. But they were trying to use words that were commonly known and trying to describe it, saying it's this is like that. And I said, no, it can't be like that. So and then people would say, but how? What would it be then if you don't agree with it? So then I had to get into the game and said, I cannot be complaining. This is not unless I have an answer for them. So I looked at the historical events like Black Fever, Spanish flu, World War One, World War Two, all the major disasters events. And then I found that there is one event that was seminal in terms of how the societal structure changed,
Uh-huh.
which was 9/11.
Mhm.
And you would say, oh, no, there are bigger disastrous events. In all those events, there was one thing in common. I say the change of societal change was elastic.
Yeah.
That means after that event, after some time, it would come back to normalcy. There was a change, but that change was mostly because of the technology and other innovations that were happening, not because of the event itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then 9/11 changed something drastically, which is the people got a doubt that one of us among us may be a terrorist or something, which is there was a rupture, a small rupture in the interpersonal trust that people had with each other. And that resulted in what is now as TSA in India, in the United States. They lock the doors when the pilots get into the plane. A lot of things we come to live with. It's almost like there is no choice kind of thing.
I actually used
So
to work in New York in those days. It was scary time.
yes, you can imagine, right? But now we have factored that into our lives, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you talk to somebody who is born later than 2000, and if you tell them, "Hey, do you know things were different before?" They would. How could it be any different? You need the security. You
Uh-huh.
need this. You need that. That was not the case. I still remember when we were in Niagara Falls, myself and my family, and then there was nobody in the airport. And in that airport, literally, we were like six people. And
Mhm.
then he used to do like this, go. And I showed him the ticket, and he said, please go. What can he check for six people,
Yeah.
right? You can never think of it like that now. So we factored that in. What happened with COVID is worse than that, right? So basically, not only we are doubting somebody, we can doubt somebody who is very close to us, not because they have an intention to harm, but they may be an asymptomatic carrier of COVID.
Mhm.
So now the interpersonal trust is starts with a suspect rather than a trust,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So that's why I said today it's COVID, tomorrow it's something else. But we now have seen a possibility that something like this can happen. And once that possibility is in somebody's head, the societal operating system will change.
Yeah.
That's why I wrote this book, The 6 Foot World.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. And as I said, I went through that time period when September 11th happened there. And yeah, I mean, a lot of things changed, especially, me being a person of color. I noticed the tangible behavior in people's
Yeah.
behavior right away. So let's come back to COVID-19. So I do agree this is unprecedented and something like this, I don't think ever has happened before. But how come when you and I we discuss it, we think of this as a huge event that has not happened in probably thousands of years, but a lot of other people are just sort of waiting for this to be over to get back to their normal lives. So what kind of discrepancy do you see between how people are seeing how this will unfold versus what you see how this will unfold? Like there seems to be huge discrepancy there. So can we dive a little bit into that?
Yes. For that, we have to go to the general human behavior, Manoj. Think about it. Do you see people who smoke? They can also read, no? They say, do not smoke.
Yeah, yeah.
Smoking is injurious to health, but they still do it. isn't it? But they factored that thing in because for me, nothing will happen. It may happen for somebody else, but I am immune to it, right? And you see the obesity problem, isn't it?
Yeah,
So anybody you know who is obese, it's not like they don't know that they should eat healthy and they should not go to fast foods and everything. But do they go do that? They do it.
yeah,
It is always they cannot see the short term, long term impact of something, but they can see the short term gain of doing something, right? So basically, if there is a short term pleasure, they'll go towards it. There's a long term gain with a short term pain, they don't want to do it,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So in the that's why my philosophy teacher used to say that suppose you jump off from the cliff, right? Until the last 2 3 seconds, you can enjoy it. It's like flying, there is no problem. Only in the last 1 second, when the impact happens, you say, "Oh God!" And by that time, it's too late, right? So the thing is, the eating healthy, doing good exercise, and having no stress and sleeping well, all those good things. If you practice everything today, you eat healthy today, sleep well, exercise, and meditate, and then do some chants or anything, whatever, depending on your religious beliefs. You do everything like a good human being. Tomorrow morning, nothing will change because it takes time, it takes years of practice,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
But if you want pleasure, there is Netflix, Prime, everything. Now you can get the pleasure. By doing good things, tomorrow morning there is no pleasure, isn't it? So the gain is always long term, but the pain, you can't say it's pain, but it's the discipline is over a long period of time. But the pleasure, it's now, isn't it?
Yeah,
So that's why people cannot see what's coming around the corner.
yeah, yeah.
And then they look around the people. If people are behaving as if they don't care, they say, okay, whatever happens to everybody, it will happen to me. But what they don't realize is that the other person around them may have millions of dollars in the bank. So he is covered, but you may be only 3 paychecks away. So you have to take care of yourself, but you get carried away by people around you.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's true. That's very true. That we as a species, we make our decisions, or we sort of measure our own well-being by noticing how other people are behaving.
Correct.
So, but in this example, what you brought up, it sounds like the smoking aspect and pleasure and pain is somewhat voluntary. Like somewhat. It's not as consequential, even if we don't get disciplined, because what's the worst that can happen? We may not be, we may not get exactly the life we want, but at least we will be able to survive. But in this case, it seems much more extreme. Like, I'm not saying that if we don't follow certain things, we won't be able to survive, but I mean, the consequences are much bigger, much dire in this case, if we don't focus and understand what is going on. So what do you think about that?
See, the first thing is when people say something like, when we get back to work,
Yeah,
I am thinking there is no getting back, because there is no place. The past is already over. The future cannot be found in nostalgia, isn't it? So basically, there is no place to get back. It's almost changed. It's almost like this: you leave New York, and when you get back at Seattle, you're thinking, what happened? No, nothing happened. It's changed forever. So it's everything is changed. When you try to improvise on the rules of the game and mastery of a previous game, but the new game is being played, and you complain that this is not the game I was playing before. I said, the universe says, I don't care. Either you can play this game or you sit on the sidelines and watch others play the game. Isn't it?
Yeah. Now let's take a concrete example, because I think the more examples we give, like more sort of real life instances of what may change, I think that will clarify a few things. So can we talk about a few things?
There are lots of them, Manoj. We'll start with something. Look at the announcement that people are making. Like, we both know Tata Consultancy Services. Now they said by 2025, they want to have 75% of the jobs completely working from home, never have an office. Now imagine that seems like okay, one company, but one company is like 400,000, 500,000 employees. It's huge,
Yeah.
isn't it? Now wherever they are, let's say they are in Bangalore or Mumbai or Hyderabad or any place, what happens to the real estate? What happens to all the things that they were using? And what happens to secondary, tertiary effects? Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a chain reaction. And if TCS does it, what should happen to the competitors? They have
Yeah.
to follow suit because now TCS has saved money on commute, saved lots and lots of things off his real estate. Now the competing company cannot say, no, we will have the same cost basis
Yeah.
and we'll try to compete with it. It can't happen, isn't it? It's like a point of no return. When 15, 20 companies that are really big do this in a city, the entire real estate industry will go for a toss,
Yeah.
isn't it? And there are people who are depending on taking them back and forth from work, right? Like the drivers and all those people. Like in here, everybody drives themselves, but there is a driver and there's a whole cottage industry that depends on somebody doing something.
Yeah.
That all will change.
Yeah.
My friend runs a company which was they had 215,000 serviced apartments they were managing for bookings, rental bookings.
Mhm.
In the last 30 days, can you guess how many rooms were booked?
Probably a few hundred. Zero.
Zero.
Wow. Hmm.
Now, what do you think will happen,
Yeah.
right? So it's and what are the chances that more people will book rooms? Like, what are the chances that people are getting used to Zoom and Blue Jeans and WebEx and all those things? And earlier they used to think, oh, it's not possible. You need to have a handshake, otherwise it's not possible. Now they say, oh, handshake? No, it's
Yeah.
only a namaste, right? So, and then it's further you are, the better it is. And
Yeah.
business is getting done. Once people get used to it, the business travel will go down,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And then everything surrounding the rental car companies, you keep looking at all the chain reaction. If this goes down, what else will go down? It's
Exactly.
unbelievable. I
Yeah.
mean, there are restaurants that were banking on just business customers,
Yeah.
isn't it? The people who come and party and all those things, that will go down. It's an unimaginable change when somebody says, when we get back to, there is no getting back
Yeah.
and there is no new normal
Yeah.
because the new normal means it was a different one, but it is normal. It's not. It's a
Yeah.
new reality, which
Exactly.
means it's a completely different operating system that better get used to it or else we'll get a rude awakening.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point, even if the industries survive, let's say, you're talking about so many valid examples about real estate industry, transportation, hospitality industries. Even if people think that, okay, let's say we operate at 25% capacity and things will be okay, the financial models don't make sense
Correct.
for that type of business to happen, right?
Correct. No, some of them will totally get wiped out, Manoj, because they won't have the staying power.
Yeah.
Because think of a restaurant, it's all good when it is going good, but the margins, as you know, are between, at best, it is 10 or 15%,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's not much.
Yeah. Exactly.
Unless you have a really, really, really good business model, you are a Michelin star restaurant. Now, so many of the Michelin star restaurants already closed the business,
Mhm.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but many low margin businesses that are high touch,
Yeah.
those are gone.
Yeah. High touch plus high debt or high investment, because a lot of businesses, they need capital investments and a
Correct,
huge capital investments. The interest loans on those, like, hotel industry, motel industry, all these public places, they run on debt. um,
correct,
and
correct,
even if without interest debt, it's going to be difficult to maintain that business model, right?
correct.
Mm.
See, there is good news here also. We don't have to talk about only doom and
Yeah.
gloom,
Yeah.
right? So basically, I had a few examples in my book there
Mhm.
where I found that there is now a friend of mine called Chris Shempra.
Mhm.
I met him recently, and then my friend Mike Rederick introduced me to him. And I asked Chris, what does he do? Yes, he said he has sparked 400,000 conversations with strangers.
Wow.
I said, in how many years? He said, in 4 years.
Wow.
I thought, give me a break. I mean, people say I'm a connector. I feel like an amoeba in front of him, right? So I said he's like a giant, and I'm an amoeba in front of him. I said, how do you do it? He said, my girlfriend and my girlfriend Molly and I love to cook, and we
Mm.
used to cook almost every day. And they would bring people, and they have a specific process of how to make people open up. And the
Wow.
process is extremely important. If it's okay with you, I'll share what they do.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
So they call it gratitude dinners, right?
Mm.
And so I have to say that the moment he said gratitude dinner, because one of my books is called Gratitude, I immediately said, "What is it?"
Mhm.
And he said, "It's very simple. That when they bring people, if you say, tell me about yourself, that's he says the worst icebreaker there is,
Mm.
right? Because some people will say, I was born in Kentucky in 1971, and then I have three siblings. And people say, "Oh, come on, please tell me something." And somebody else will say, "I'm a painter."
Mm.
That's it. There is
Yeah.
all in between, right? Some people are too verbose, and some people are too brief. He said it never works, right?
Mm.
So he said he came up with a model, and I think it's brilliant. I almost stole it with credit to him,
Yeah,
right? He said one question he will ask, and after that, it will be an unbelievably amazing introduction from people. All of them have to answer this one question.
yeah. Mm.
The question I'm paraphrasing now, obviously. The question is, if there was one person in your life that made such a big impact that even if you thank them every single day, you will think it's not enough. Who is
Mm.
that person?
Mm.
And then tell us more about it. Now imagine what happens. There will always be one person in your life, right? Everybody's life, there is one person who made a big difference. And as they start talking about him or her, they are also revealing what is the transformation they had in their own life.
Mm.
Ultimately, they are telling about themselves, right? But the conversation does not begin like tell about yourself kind of thing. Now, what happens in COVID, because they are so high touch, isn't it? They all bring people and everything. So immediately they made their gratitude dinners go virtual.
Oh, wow.
Now, it's even more bigger possibility for them, because first couple of times I attended the fourth or fifth gratitude dinner. So I know exactly what happened there. It was magical. I met a bunch of new people. And while everybody was having dinner in their own home, there's only Zoom call.
Yeah.
But the way they organized it and the way they made deep connections, it's unbelievable. Now,
Wow.
if the COVID did not happen, Manoj, they would not have tried it,
Yeah.
because why would they suddenly say, like, it looks so artificial?
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
it? To say, let's have dinner in your own homes, eat whatever you want, and we have a conversation, it
Mm.
looks silly.
Yeah.
But this one forced them to rethink their business model, and they found that this business model is even more scalable, even more better, even more convenient for them. Molly and Chris don't have to cook for like 50 people,
Yeah.
but they can have the impact to a much larger scale.
Mm.
So I say that there are people who have found, I have so many such stories. So there are problems and there are possibilities.
Yeah.
If you look for problems, you'll see problems. If you look for possibility, you'll see possibilities.
Yeah.
But what should not happen is, you should not be an armchair analyst,
Mm.
isn't it? You say, let me analyze what is happening. But when will you do something?
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, there is so much to do, isn't it?
Exactly.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. More total sense. Yeah. As you said, these models existed, but there were mental barriers between the consumers, even the producers, saying that this is not going to work at all. Just
Yes.
the example that you gave, virtual, it was looked up down upon. Like, if you had a business, like, important deal that you want to sign, and if you say to your client, hey, let's just do it over Zoom, it's almost insulting that you can't even come show
Yeah.
up at my office.
Yeah,
um
yeah, yeah. I'm giving it so much importance. You can't give me that much importance.
yeah, yeah,
But now that's no longer the barrier.
exactly. And all it was is a mental shift, which was brought about by some external circumstances.
Yes.
And as you said, like, when you look for possibilities, you find possibilities. But I find that, you know a lot of people inherently understand that, but the speed of realization is very slow. And as we know, humans have become this dominant species on the planet just because of their ability to adapt very, very rapidly, right? In,
Correct.
under any circumstances. So at what point do you think people will start to awaken, like they will start to notice that shifts are happening, like really huge shifts are happening? What will be those events, so that we can tell people to look out for those events? Because I believe us telling them that this is a big event may not really land as well as we intended to. But when they notice these events happening, that may trigger some thoughts in their mind that this is actually happening. So any ideas, any events that we can mention here?
See, first of all, there are some people, just like a technology adoption life cycle, there are some early adopters and there are late adopters, and then there are early majority and late majority, and the same thing happens. It's like a bell curve,
Yeah, yeah,
isn't it? So sometimes, you coach a lot of people. So if you try to coach someone who does not want to be coached, no, you will just irritate them.
yeah,
You will be irritated, they will also be irritated, like a lose-lose situation, isn't it? You cannot do it. So that's why there is this old saying: when the student is ready, the teacher arrives,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
So your job is to not to try to convert the people who don't want to be converted. Actually, put fuel to the people, give some boost to the people who want to be converted, who are trying to do something, and help them.
yeah. Mhm.
So that way, what happens? They become examples of other people to other people to
Yeah,
say, "Oh, look what he is doing, what she is doing," kind of thing.
yeah,
Otherwise, it will be like the person is hell bent on going towards the cliff, and
yeah,
then you try to stop him, he will knock you down, and then he will go and jump off the cliff.
yeah, yeah.
Plus, you got a bruise, you will go to the hospital,
Mhm.
right? But there are some people who are trying to climb the mountain of the next level, and then you are ignoring them. But these people need a little bit of push so they can reach the summit,
Yeah,
right? So my theory is there is always room to play a game in the right places. So you don't try to change everything. People who don't want to be changed, because it's hard work, because it's an opportunity cost as well.
yeah,
Why?
yeah.
Because there are some people who just need a little bit of push.
Mhm.
These people, you have to bring them kicking and screaming. These
Mhm.
people just ask, please give me a hand. I'm the last minute there. You pull them up rather than somebody who is beating you up to stay wherever they are.
Yeah, yeah.
Does it make sense?
That's a good point. Very good point. So we are airing live to hundreds of thousands of people globally right now. Let's dive in. Can we give them a little bit of a practical sort of a step-by-step instructions on what they can do right now to take some actions to prepare themselves to, as you said, like analysis is good, but actually based on that analysis, do something concrete to prepare themselves for what is coming.
Definitely. See, first of all, the thing about living and leading in this period is that there can't be a recipe for this,
Yeah.
but there can be a mindset and approach,
Mhm.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's why I give the analogy of a Go game,
Mhm.
right? So I told you what the Go game is. It's a 19 by 19 board. People play using stones.
Yeah.
Unlike in the chess game, where you try to capture the king or checkmate the king,
Yeah.
there is no king or queen or anything. It's two marbles,
Yeah.
right? It's two. You basically you have black, the other person has white, or vice versa,
Yeah.
right? And they start the game and say that they want to capture as much territory as possible. You have one extra territory than compared to the other person, you win.
Mhm.
So the game starts like this: you place a stone in one of the 361 squares, and you have 360 possibilities to put your stone. There is unlimited possibilities, and the moment you put the stone, he has 359 possibilities. So you can imagine the variables, no, which is basically more than the number of stars in the universe,
Yeah, yeah,
isn't it? It immediately goes like berserk.
yeah.
So now you have to think that what is happening is like the game of Go. Like, you can't make a move until you know what the universe's move is going to be,
Mhm.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, what they can do to prepare is how a person, a Go game player, thinks about the game. We have to start developing the habit of being super agile and respond to what is happening, because nobody knows. If somebody says, I know exactly what's going to happen, and these are the 15 steps to do, and you'll be good. No idea, isn't it? Right? So, but what we can do to prepare is to create that agility mindset, that whenever there is a move, like how you said, rapidly adopt and change, not resist it,
Yeah.
because that's where the problem is. So you learn to be coachable, and then learn to move fast, and learn to not hang on to the past, and then learn to just move to the future without worrying. But that's not how we were doing it. Well, that how we were doing it is no longer relevant now. So we might as well learn the new tricks.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I can say to people, there will be a lot of very smart people who will get more stuck now. Why? Because think about what is happening in their lives. Everybody around them are telling they're so smart, right? So whenever they make a move, they are very strong in their game because they know exactly what to do. When they have to learn the new game, they are amateurs, right? It's like saying you are very good in the game of chess. Now you are starting to fly, isn't it? You cannot say, well, in chess, I used to move I used to bring out the rook in this way, but I'm flying. So there is no analogy possible, isn't it?
Sure.
It's beyond analogies. So at that time, they have to be comfortable of being an amateur. What is an amateur? They'll fall down a couple of times. They will make a mess a couple of times. In the earlier days, because they're so smart, everybody were telling they're so smart. Now, when they make a mistake, nobody really cares, but they think everybody cares. Isn't it? How can I be making a mistake? So I will stick to what I know. What I know will be what I know, and I will stick to what I know will be the biggest drawback or the blind spot people will have. It doesn't matter what they knew before. What they will have to learn in the new game becomes more important. Like, for example, think about you are a very good programmer, but you are not solving really tough problems. You're solving simple problems, but you could solve tough problems, but there was enough business to do simple problems. There was enough people. Now there are no code movement. So those simple problems people are solving themselves. Isn't it? So now you are an identity crisis, but you could do that, but you are not needed. In fact, after some time it will be like, I'll order a CRM. One click, a CRM is there, right? So like that. So now you have to think, what else can you do? That's why I talk about extending the value chain. So people have to learn what is the value chain, what happens before, what happens during, what happens after. Like my friend Dean Jackson talks about, every business has a before, during, and after. So those kinds of people, they've already given frameworks. So good news is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to have the beginner's mindset and be comfortable being an amateur.
So that's very relevant. But as we know, our mind plays a lot of tricks on us. It's not easy to have spent 10, 20 years in a profession and look at yourself as an amateur. And that also, you mentioned, there are some early adopters, there are some late adopters, and by definition, early adopters are very minority of the population. And since this is a huge global crisis, I will wonder that maybe we don't have the strategies right now, but do you have something that you can share for the laggards as well? Because at the end of the day, we will have significant number of laggards who will realize this at a little bit later stage. So when they do realize it, like, do you have any strategies that, what can they do to adjust rapidly at that point?
There is a reason why they are called laggards, because they don't want to change, because they hang on to, forget about COVID, even pre-COVID, there were people who are called laggards because they don't want to change. Now, all of a sudden, they will not change. But what can help them change is role models. There is enough people who have changed and they are seeing the results that they are getting. They say, oh, now there is another path and there is okay, and I want to change. It cannot be instruction or advice. It is examples. Isn't it? So that's why, what did I do? I could have said, in the next 6 months, I'll write this book, isn't it?
Mm.
I say, you know what? I want to do this within 1 month.
Yeah.
You know my health situation. It's not like it's easy for me to write,
Yeah.
isn't it? Now, if I can do it, anybody can do it. But it requires some discipline. It requires a big network that you should have nurtured.
Yeah.
And when you need help, people are willing to help. But if you have not nurtured it, they will not say, everybody is busy.
Yeah.
So there is no reason for them to help if they don't like me, or if I have not built that relationship. So this conception, creation, and publication of the book is a simple example that even in tough times, even if the health situation is not that good, it can be done. And you should be willing to take the help that is available to you. And a book is a small thing. You could do it for a company, you could do it for any other project or anything. But not doing something is wrong. And not getting mired by news is wrong. Because between now, from the first time the COVID news came up and to now, nobody is keeping track of how many hours they have thought about COVID in their own life, talked about it and everything. The cumulative number of hours, what is the opportunity cost for that?
Mhm. Mhm.
What could they have done?
Yeah. Yeah. It's been weeks, almost 6, 7 weeks now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And only they can do an self-analysis and say, in the 7 weeks, look at all the time they spent on talking about COVID. What could they have done? Now, it'll be a sad story for many people, but you can't fix yesterday, but that should not stop you from having a better tomorrow,
Very true.
isn't it? So you can say, okay, whatever past is past, 7 weeks. They can take a moratorium on COVID news
Mhm.
from today,
Yeah. Yeah.
isn't it? And since they cannot do it 100%, they say, maximum I will think about COVID or talk about COVID or consume news about COVID for 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
You will be amazed. Just do it for 1 week. You will be amazed. You feel like there is a cognitive surplus everywhere. Like you can say, oh my God, I have so much time
Yeah.
because I'm not talking about COVID,
Exactly.
isn't it?
You're absolutely right, and I think you brought up two very important points, which is role models and nurturing your network so that you can reach out for help, especially in a time like this. When, as you rightly pointed out, trust will be a very valuable commodity.
Yes.
Just because of the way that this has unfolded, and having trustworthy friends and family to support and sort of give and take is going to be very important, and the aspect of role models will be very important. So um, we all play a role of leader in our families, in our organizations, for our kids. Some of them, some of us, we have titles, CEO and whatnot. Some of us, we don't have titles, but still we lead some other people who are looking upon us, as a role model. So can you give any practical advice, daily activities, the things, actions they can take to project themselves as a true leader, even in front of their kids, in front of their families, and sort of guide the behavior of people around them?
I always say is to lead by example.
Mhm.
See, we are always thinking, what will I tell other people? By the way you live, you are telling more than what you will tell,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So the easiest way is, if you are taking care of yourself, your healthy habit and everything, sooner than later, what will happen? People who see it will say, I must try to do something, at least not everything, but at least I have to try to do something.
Mhm.
So I have a practice, Manoj, called practicing what is called to think lists.
Mhm.
So which is basically, what is a to think list? It's basically a list of things that I want to think about. So just like you have a to-do list where I have list of things to do, I have a list of things to think.
Yeah.
I've been practicing it over 10 plus years. The way it works is, suppose you say something to me and I say, oh, that's a good idea, I have to think about it.
Mhm.
So if I don't write it down and actually set aside time to do it, what will I do? because I'm reasonably smart and you are reasonably smart. We just to try to think it in the shower or in between meetings or in the walk or something.
Yeah.
That's shallow thinking. We don't get enough into it, but we can get by. So once we get used to getting by, you cannot get ahead,
Yeah, I see.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So now in my case, almost every single thing that I have accomplished, I still have a long way to go. I say I'm an eternal work in progress. I guarantee work. I leave the progress to God. That's how I say it,
Yeah.
right? So everything I have done, if I have to give credit to one practice, it will be the to think list practice. Why? Because when you think deep, you slow down and think deep. There is magic in it, because after some time, there is no chance of somebody getting ahead of you because you had the practice of thinking deep and investing in yourself. I met a person, Manoj, called, his name is Richard Viguerie. He's 83 years old. He's one of the finest marketers I have met. And he has, I don't know how many hundred people he has in his companies. 83 years strong as an athlete, right? So I asked him, sir, what is your secret? He said when he was 19 or 20, he said that he wanted to be one of the world's greatest marketers. And he said he will follow only one rule, Manoj, one. Every day he will spend 2 hours learning marketing.
Yeah. Okay.
Irrespective of Saturday, Sunday, or anything, every day he will do. Now, from that age, 19 to 20 age to now,
Wow.
he is doing it every single day, Manoj. Now he said, I don't have to wait for years, Rajesh. Within months, I will have a competitive advantage against almost everyone. Why? Because most of the people don't even study for 2 hours in a week.
Mm.
I'm doing it every single day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So imagine the power of such consistent investment in themselves over decades.
Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of an advantage they will have,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And I think that's a very, very important point. I'm glad you described that process, because I think that is the key here. Because even if we look at this current situation, I mean, billions of people are under lockdown. In my opinion, conservatively speaking, maybe like 2 or 3% people are maybe taking some action, as you put it, in terms of upskilling themselves or learning more or producing more stuff. So right there, if you join those ranks, it gives you a major advantage, right?
Exactly. So you look at the stats, look at the companies that are doing very well: Amazon, Prime, the number of hours consumed on Prime, number of hours consumed on Netflix, all those things are growing up. So we
Yeah.
know that there are enough people who don't care,
Yeah.
because they are mostly interested in catching up. What
Yeah.
happens in the Money Heist?
Yeah.
I watched it, the entire series back to back in
Mm.
1 week.
Mm.
They're so accomplished in that sense, or at least they think, because there is uh, there is um there is room for conversation socially. If you watch Money Heist,
Yeah.
and then there is enough people who are talking about it, you look cool,
Yeah.
isn't it? Say, I also watched it. What happened? They will do an armchair analysis. How was the story? Do all those things. But if you say you are studying, let's say, how to do neuromarketing,
Yeah.
first of all, you will not find anybody else to talk about.
Yeah.
Everybody else is talking about the Breaking Bad and Money Heist and the next big thing, whatever it is. And you say, hey guys, we should also set aside some time for talking neuromarketing.
Yeah.
They will think you need some neural adjustment. Not They will not welcome you. They
Yeah.
will think you are oddball, so you are not part of the club,
Mhm.
right? You have that problem.
Yes.
So you have to stand out while we are staying in the circles,
Yeah. And
isn't it? That's the hard part.
and to your point, I think you are right in that if we stay within that circle, we will be considered odd person out. But there is always an opportunity to find another tribe who may be talking about neuro marketing, and then you can join them and become a cool member of that tribe, right?
100%. The goal is to do both. Let's
Yeah.
say your current tribe is made up of your family members.
Yeah. Yeah.
What will you do?
Yeah.
You cannot do anything,
Mhm.
right? So the idea is that not to uh, make it look like you are a difficult person to deal with. So you have to live there, but
Mm.
at the same time, you have to have the discipline to not get carried away by the discussions.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
isn't it?
That's
You
true.
have to say the discussions are okay because during the discussions, how many hours can you talk? Maybe 1 hour, 2 hour. But a private time that you have so much time.
Yeah.
That is where with volition, what will you do? If you are given a choice, next 3 hours are yours. You can do whatever you want. If you choose to watch another episode of Money Heist, then we have a problem,
Yeah. That's true.
isn't it? You have time. The cognitive surplus, how is it utilized, is is where the magic is. When I came to the United States, Manoj, it was in 1997. I suddenly felt I have so much time. When somebody said, I have no time, I was thinking, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Because you want to pay the electricity bill, click, done. You want to pay this, click, done. You
Yeah.
want to do that, click, done. You want to buy tickets, movie, click, done. You buy a book, click, done. Now, what do you do? I'm used to working in my village, right? So, electricity bill. My mom will say, go and pay the electricity bill.
Yeah.
2 hours to go to the electricity office, 1 hour to stand in the queue. The guy will say, oh, this challan is wrong. You come back, go back. That is work.
Yeah.
If there is no work, you click a button, done.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you auto set up auto pay, there is no clicking also,
Yeah.
right? So people sometimes don't realize how much of cognitive surplus they have, and it is consumed by voluntarily signing up for activities that are meaningless.
Yeah.
And they say, we don't have time. You have time. You chose not to use that time for something meaningful. Don't say that you don't have time.
That's true. Wonderful. That's awesome. Now, I know we've been jamming for like almost an hour. I know a couple of last questions. I know you are an avid, like, you're very, very particular about yoga and meditation. And from what you have shared with me earlier, that has played a huge role in your life. So can you share a few things about that? Maybe that is something that people can start taking up and start practicing during these times.
There are many practices that are good. I always say that sometimes people say you have to practice and create a new habit. I always say that you have to reprogram your being, not about habits. It's the next level thing that you have to do. For example, 2007, I started doing yoga and meditation. Until now, it's 2020. I've skipped only 2 days.
Wow.
Why? Because now I don't think I'm doing it. I'm being it.
Yeah.
So which means I cannot imagine a day without it, just like I cannot imagine a day where I don't brush my teeth.
Yeah.
So just like we don't announce, oh, Manoj, how is it going? Did you brush your teeth? You say, what? What is wrong with you, right? So it should be that level. I say, oh, Manoj, how is it going? Did you do your yoga? Means you should say, what? How can you even ask that? It is my life, isn't it? So you have to get to the level, any discipline. Let's say I write every day, at least 1 page. If you ask me, did you write today? You will actually insult me.
I see.
Because you will say, come on, Manoj, you know me for so many months now. You cannot ask me that question. So any good thing, if you reprogram your being so that it is so much part of you, that if somebody asks you, did you do it? You feel insulted. That is when your target got to the next level, whatever it is. It could be somebody is solving crossword puzzles every day, for example. It will make their mind get sharp, right? But if you tell him one day, you ask him, did you do your crossword puzzle? He should say, what are you talking? Kind of thing. Anything in that matter. For Richard Viguerie, if I ask him, sir, did you do your 2 hours of marketing study? He'll slap me on my face. Because he has been doing it for 70 years or 50 years, whatever it is. It's huge, isn't it? So the idea is, whatever is the practice, it should lead to something good in your life, but it should be unquestionable that you will not do it every day. That's where the magic happens.
Awesome. That's great. So in a way, if I can paraphrase what you just said, is first of all, we need to be very committed to what we take on as a practice. So at some level, we need to like really evaluate whether we really like it and we want to do it for the rest of our lives, and then sort of get into it with full commitment and adopt it with full commitment so that it becomes part of our nature.
I think there is one because I'm a linguistic person, right? I'll catch every single small thing, so so much that I'll upset someone.
Uh,
That what you have to say is, it's not whether you like the practice, either you like the outcome that comes with the practice. It's a
yeah,
subtle difference.
yeah,
If
yeah,
you like the outcome that comes with the practice, then you don't care whether you like the practice or not. You
yeah,
just do it because you
yeah,
love the outcome.
yeah,
So first is to say, do I want the outcome to be calm and composed every single day?
yeah, yeah,
Yes. Okay. If I want that outcome, you better meditate.
yes,
Whether you like the meditation or not, who cares?
yeah,
Because you love the outcome. You
yeah.
are going for the outcome,
That's right. That's right.
isn't it?
Yeah. No, I can tell you, you're absolutely right. Like meditation, obviously, in a time like this, meditation is almost like is almost like panacea for mental health. Like I don't think there is any other uh, better alternative right now in this environment where you cannot, visit doctors very frequently, or those guys. Like there's a huge mental pressure on everyone right now, right?
I think, again, I'm very careful about the choice of words, right? Because the moment you say there's huge mental pressure with everyone, somebody who's listening thinks, maybe I should have some mental pressure. Why am I not having? It looks like everybody is having mental pressure. Why am I left out from? Why God forgot me?
Uh-huh.
Like, what is happening here, right? So you have to say, for the unprepared people, there will be a lot of mental pressure. For the
Mm.
prepared, it's nothing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
isn't it?
Mm.
So that's why in the world of Stoicism, right? Probably you're familiar with it.
Of course.
There is a practice where we won't have the time to go. Maybe next time we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So there is enough practices that will make sure that will help you to have a mental fine balance.
Mm.
And then the goal is that how you react and how you process things. Because there is nobody. First of all, the last time I got angry, I don't remember. Why?
Mm.
Because angry, somebody else cannot make you angry.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
have to bring it from within yourself.
Yes, yes,
So, but remember that anything that is happening, the story of what is happening is told by whom? Us,
yes. Yeah, exactly.
isn't it?
Yeah.
We choose the story that we tell about what is happening, and that is the story that will create anger or any other emotion,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Exactly.
So, if we are the creators of that story, if you are angry, if you want to blame the story creator, who will you blame? You,
Yeah.
isn't it? Because you are the one who told that story,
Exactly.
isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are so many things where we are responsible, but we feel good saying that he is responsible, she is responsible, and everything. But ultimately, who is the final storyteller to us is us only.
Exactly. Yeah.
They cannot enter our brain and plant a story, isn't it? They cannot invade our brain.
Exactly.
We
Exactly.
can only tell him, we process and we tell the story to ourselves.
That's great. Yeah. So true. It's very true. If people can sort of just sit with that thought and understand what is going on and how to apply that in your life, I think it has the ability to change their life in a very, very positive way, very, very quickly. So I hope people really watch this, listen to this episode maybe multiple times, because you have shared so many practical tips that you can apply in your life sitting at home right now under any circumstance. So thank you so much. Now I know this is a huge project for you. You completed it in record time, and what can we do? Like, is there something that people can do to get a glimpse of what we were talking about, the book and stuff? How can they read more about it?
Yeah, so because the last part is not done yet, it's in work in progress, right? The editors are working on it. But as soon as we finish the draft of the first three chapters, we put it online called 6foot.world. That's where it is, right? And then our goal is that if people like it, I only request that they just share it with one or two people that they want them to read,
Yeah.
because they know somebody is going through something, and sometimes all it requires is, so I always say, like my one of my teachers, Susan Scott, she wrote the book called Fierce Conversation. She always says you are one conversation away from making a mega change.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll paraphrase the whole book in one sentence. It says, While there is no guarantee that any single conversation can change the trajectory of your life, career, or business, any single conversation can.
Can.
What is the conversation that has your name on it?
Yes.
So this is the time to be present to every single conversation, good ones, not the COVID ones, right? So good ones, because and you have to be allow it to change you. You cannot say whatever is the conversation I will not change. No, that won't happen. Something to think about.
That's great. That's great. So I'll put that link once again. It's a six. What is it? Can you repeat that? Just
6foot.world.
6foot.world. I'll put that link in the show notes so that people can reach out. But I really urge you, because I've read the book, and obviously I'm implementing a lot of those things that I have learned. So I really encourage people who have listened to this to go to this website, 6foot.world, and read the chapters. They are, some content is available for free, and do share it with others. It's quite serious time we are going through, quite unprecedented, and this information, this book, can it can save a number of lives, a number of families, and a lot of hardships that may come without this knowledge. So please take this as our sincere thanks and sincere sort of urging you to look into this and share this with the maximum number of people, because we do want this event to pass by with least amount of harm, and that's what we are trying to do here, right? So yeah. Yes, you wanted to say something. Maybe I.
No, I said again because I am a stickler to words, right?
Yeah,
We want this period to pass with largest number of possibilities at hand,
yeah.
not the least amount of harm, but
Oh.
largest number of possibilities at hand, right?
Thank you so much for correcting me.
I, I know I'll irritate some people, but
No.
I would rather people start using the exact words that will empower them,
Yeah.
rather than do one word. Because there is another friend of mine, I will introduce her. Her name is Jade Connelly Dugan, and she is an unbelievable expert on what is called as sense intelligence, like sense intelligence.
Okay.
She told me one day, Rajesh, do you know that every single thought that comes in your mind, every single word you utter, there is a physical manifestation on your body.
Oh,
You may not be aware of it, but there is.
I see.
So the idea is never choose a wrong word, or in other words, always choose a right word that is empowering, because that is, your words create your worlds,
Okay.
isn't
There
it?
you go. Yeah. Even in the last moment, you have given such a profound lesson to me as well. Thank you so much.
Yes. I mean, for me, I always become upset when I get to know someone, Manoj. Their success becomes my obsession, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I almost like I want them to succeed, irrespective of whether they want to succeed or not. It really doesn't matter to me. So it becomes like my mission in life is I want to see this person succeed, and then I become obsessed with what they use, words they use, because I know that might detract them.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I mean, Rajesh, getting to know you as a person has been a privilege. So thank you so much for doing what you do for everyone, not just for one person. Like, I've heard from so many people you don't even know. I've heard from so many people that have talked about you, and every time they mention your name, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, he's wonderful. Like, he has helped me so many times, and it's been a real privilege. And what you shared today was awesome, very, very useful, very timely. So please, guys, do check out the book. And do you want to say, like, if people want to connect with you, like, do you how do they reach out to you, or is the book is the best way to get to you?
They can see. I'm very transparent. If they Google my name, they'll be everywhere,
Yeah.
and it's very easy to reach me. Very easy to find my email. Everything is very easy,
Good.
right? So they can always reach out to me. So I'm on social media. I'm not very active, but I usually respond to almost everyone that writes to me. May not be very immediately, but
Yeah.
I will respond.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It has been a privilege having you here on this episode. I hope everybody likes it. If you guys have any feedback, please send us our way, and we'll continue to bring more content, which will sort of help you to get through this and explore new possibilities that are going to come in this
You,
period.
you got it.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Bye.